My name is Tyler Sieh, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Associate Principal Viola of the Omaha Symphony. So if you're thinking about switching to play the viola, and you're already familiar with the violin, obviously the size is going to be the first thing you notice. Everything is going to be a little bit further away from your body when you're holding the viola. Because the instrument's a little bit longer, your left hand is a little bit further away. All the notes are a little bit further apart, so your left hand would have to get used to every note being in a slightly different place than it is on the violin. Another thing that I notice is that you have to be pretty strong to play the viola because there's also more weight that you're holding up for long periods of time while you're practicing and playing concerts. And you wouldn't think that it would make that big of a difference because we're just talking about, a few inches. But it really adds up when you're talking about holding it up for hours at a time. So sound production is a really important thing to think about when you're learning or thinking about the viola and considering switching to it. There's so much that we have to think about in our right arm or our bow arm because the viola, while it has this really dark, rich sound, you really have to kind of work to get that sound out of the instrument in a way that you don't really have to do on the violin. It's one of the reasons that the violin can play really virtuosic, flashy, fast things, which are really fun and cool, but it doesn't necessarily have the ability to get a lot of the rich, dark colors that the viola does. And a lot of that work is all happening in our bow arm and making sure that we're really getting into the string. So I personally really find that one of the fun challenges of playing this instrument, but it's definitely something that's different than when I think about playing the violin. So to even think, like let's say the C string, just because it's the lowest and also the thickest string that the viola has on it, I really, when I put the bow on the string, I really want to feel weight from the back of my arm and even from my chest and shoulder really getting put into the bow so that I can really feel that weight on the string. And when I feel that weight's there, I can really pull. I can really pull a big sound out of the instrument, but it's also where all of that fun, rich color comes from on the instrument. So if I'm going to try and use, let's say, how much pressure I would use to play the violin on the same note. I can get the string to activate, but I'm losing a lot of the power. Because the violin, just because it's a different shape and a different size, doesn't require that kind of intentionality, but the viola really requires you to be very specific about how you're using your arm weight. So here's a really fast way that I use in lessons with students to teach them how to capture a sense of what the bow arm should feel like. You can practice this at home. It's best to do it away from anyone that's going to make too much fun of you because it looks kind of silly. So the first thing I do is I hold the instrument just like I would when I'm playing, and then I bend over until the instrument is basically upside down and that my bow arm is just hanging. I want to feel it falling towards the ground. And then at this point I want to put the bow on the open C string, still feeling my bow arm weight just hanging and being pulled towards the floor. And then I just want to do nice, slow, open strings. Enjoying the feeling of that bow arm just being pulled towards the ground. And what this does is it actually puts all of that arm weight above the stick of the bow so that when I pull those open strings, I actually have all of this weight in my shoulder, chest, and arm going straight into the string. But it's also incredibly easy to do when I'm upside down. So I do that exercise, and then when I stand back up, I want to recapture that same feeling of what the arm feels like when I'm just playing normally.